I want to kick right in. I'm not here, I mentioned this when we were talking inside, I'm not here to discuss your cinema career. I'm going to try to talk about as much about writing and other things as possible. That said, I do want to ask one question based on something you mentioned the other night with Stephen Colbert, where you hinted at what might be, without putting words in your mouth, a distaste or a disillusionment from what acting is now, what film is now. And I'm curious if that comes from the way we disseminate the medium now. Certainly Netflix, Hulu, the proliferation of those channels. Is it the way the business has gone forward? Or is it just, I don't know, I don't want to say boredom, but you're feeling something else in your life, more prevalent?
Well, you've given me a multiple choice. I think it's, it's not an observation that I would hope to encourage in others. It's just my own experience is that the girl that I fell in love with, that is cinema, I fell in love with in a dark theater with strangers at a time in American cinema, particularly, where once a week one saw a film that would be remembered forever. Today, there are films that I work hard to remember. There are still great films being made and great filmmakers and actors making them. But I do find that the shareability of that experience is diminished with the amount of content and the limited ways, and by limited I'm talking about when people watch films on computers and telephones and things like that. That's just, for me, not an exciting thing. And so I think that in participation in it, it's lost its luster that way. I don't have the bandwidth to follow the content that's going on or begin to be part of the conversation with bingers. Earpieces in their ears and sitting 30 hours in their bed with pizza. Watching shows that I don't even know how to technically access.
Right. I understand completely. It's impossible. And it is impossible to know how much is out there. Because you blink and the next thing you know, Netflix has 8 new shows and 4 new films. So I think that. That said, what is your take on what you've done most recently? I know you've got American Lion, Andrew Jackson. I mean, how does that feel to you?
Well, that's a project that HBO has put on pause. That's not just something I didn't do it. I don't know if it would be done.
Really?
And I'd like not to consider getting into anyone's clothes at 6 o'clock in the morning other than my own for a while.
Okay, fair enough. Without turning this into a large discussion of your activism, other than to say thank you, you showed up in Haiti. You showed up in Haiti in 2010, and you never really left to a certain extent. You have, not only put your money where your mouth is, but you kept it there. And, in return, you are an active part of trying to make sure we remember the issue, we continue on trying to help. Number one, why Haiti? And why continue on?
Well, a couple of quick answers. was on that. Haiti was an accident. It was an accident at the time. I had been in a single parenting situation for about 8 months following a divorce. My son had about 6 months into that, had a terrible skateboard accident. He's 100% today, but he had to have brain surgery. Wasn't wearing his helmet and going 20 miles an hour and kissed the pavement. And that was horrifying, and the pain that he was going through was horrifying, and then they put morphine in him. And to see the relief in that hospital bed when that happened. Only 2 months later, he was not disturbed at the notion that his mother wanted to spend some time with him, which also meant that he could get away from the authoritarian telling him to take his medicine and do his homework. And I found myself for the first time in about 20 years, without anybody in the house telling me what to do, and I tried to do the obvious for a couple of nights that I came home drunk and alone, and I was exhausted, and I thought, well, what other freedom do I have now that I struck out on first choice? And it was to turn the news on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon without anybody getting my hair. And I turned it on to the earthquake, and the very first thing that was being reported when I turned it on was that they had no intravenous pain medications, and having just seen a young man go through it, and there were all these amputated surgeries and so on going on immediately at the traumatic clinics. I was able to, I thought for a minute, and I realized that while actors in Hollywood know where to find narcotics, they don't typically know where to find bulk narcotics. I talked to Dr. Paul Farmer, who had come into the city from the Central Plateau and asked him what were the needs, and he said they needed 350,000 vials of morphine and ketamine. And I called Hugo Chavez because there wasn't anyone in the United States that was going to give me that stuff. And I said I'd get a couple of friends and pick up trucks, and we'd go to their embassy in Port-au-Prince and pick it up if he'd fly it in. And the next thing you know, we had some trucks sitting there in Port-au-Prince, and they flew in 350,000 bottles of morphine and ketamine. And we were to distribute that. And the idea was to be there for about 2 weeks, distributing pain medication.
Right.
But we had some extra room on it. We had 2 planes that we landed, and one was cargo and one was personnel. And on the personnel plane, we had some space, and we thought we just reached out to hospitals and asked if any doctors that might want to go down and with us for whatever period of time they would, and we could loan them out to existing medical NGOs, and that's what we did. And then I saw that NGOs function in a very frustrating way, and coming from the movie business where the set has to be built yesterday,
Right.
We started exercising motion picture ethics where the stakes were a little higher, and try to get it done yesterday instead of tomorrow, and ended up feeling that we were doing a good job of that, especially once we started to bring Haitians in to run our departments. And then we became an NGO by accident.
Without sounding corny, look at Haiti, look at Puerto Rico. They, for the most part, other than your persistence and insistence, these things fall out of the news cycle. What can we do to truly help? Not just send, a couple dollars, not just, what can we do to help?
Well, I think it's this, I use a more pressing case here in the United States. I think that,
Yes, yeah, sure.
I've been talking about this a little bit. I watched the town hall on the gun debate, and it occurred to me that CNN might, in that case, I understand every company having to pay its bills, but it might, in that case, have taken the opportunity to go without commercial interruption. But when I saw the car companies advertising and so on, I thought, well, I'm also seeing those who are going to be letting CNN and others know when it's time to move on from one subject to another. And then you see this dynamism and this incredible courage of these young kids who went through something that most people will never ever understand, and the horror of it. And within days, have the composure to speak not only to the choir, but to speak in an inclusionary way, to bring in some new thinking on the other side of that debate. Clearly not with our Congress, but with the people in the country. And I thought, well, this is extremely powerful if they begin now to coordinate with other organizations representing other issues, so that when the channel flips and it becomes the fashion of considering the safety of our children goes away, and we get into civil rights issues, whatever it is, that you're still talking to the same organization, and when it comes to bringing people to the ballot booth, they're all going to be together. And so I think that's how it'll last.
Okay, fair enough. I want to move into writing, but I want to move into the thing that I think most people know you from first, which is the work you did in regards to Chapo. I thought it was a great story. I find you to be a rousing, succinct journalist. But I read something where you believed you may have failed. And I'm curious as to the specifics as why you think you failed and how that may have influenced what you did as a writer going forward in your novel.
This is a very good question because it is a direct link. It wasn't that I felt that my writing failed to achieve what I intended it to achieve as a writer. It was an issue of a kind of recognition of the tone deaf to the times, which what happened there is, the very vitriolic backlash that came, which typically came from journalists who had only read the excerpts other journalists had regurgitated.
Right.
Because they wrote a long piece and they were busy looking for porno stories or something. We had, as a country, clearly focused on the supply side for as long as I can remember in the so-called war on drugs, and in so doing have participated either directly or indirectly with exacerbating the problem to where it is today, and to add to it this incredible opioid plague that we're going through. So I thought that I might go down and talk to someone who represented that supply side and see what their position was. Now, it's been largely reported that I did an interview with Chapo Guzman. In fact, what I did is I went to the jungle to convince him to let me do an interview.
Right.
I had an 8-hour conversation with him. When I tried to get back to Mexico, I'd gone back to South America, was in Managua awaiting connection to get back in, and then flew into Mexico City waiting to meet that point person, and they had been raided by the Mexican Marines and the DEA at that point, so they were underground again, and there was no way to get back to him. Later I sent some questions, and he selectively answered some of those on videotape. But what I realized was that it reminds me of when the playwright Brendan Behan, his newsreel of him coming in the United States after he was a notorious alcoholic, and he'd gone on the wagon, and he comes back into the United States, and the old black and white newsreels, there's his plane lands in New York because he's got a play opening on Broadway. And the Women's Christian Coalition had been very critical of him at that time. And so as he came off the plane, he said, "Mr. Behan, is there any chance while in New York you'll go off the wagon?" And he said, "Every chance in the world." And then the second question was, you know, do you have anything to say to the Women's Christian Coalition? He says, well, they could be a bit more cheerful. And I thought the response to the article could have been more cheerful. But the failure of the article was, you know, its timing and recognizing when people are willing to listen to something, something that, yes, has some irony in it, has some adventure in it, has some personalization in it, but it's code for, hey, that we got to take a look at the demand side because it lives in our own homes and in our neighbors' homes, and it's killing our kids, and it's getting them shot up and hooked and creating, you know, adding to, you know, we got a bad enough sober mental health crisis in this country. We don't need that. So that was what I meant, is that clearly I was entering, let's say, the wounded child zone of many people in their reaction to this. And you can't bring nuance to a 3-year-old conversation.
And, okay, let's move to the novel as to how, you know, you said Alice May shaped the novel. You started, well, in around 2016, we began to catch wind of Paddy Pariah, an audiobook. Was that, had you already been writing the book? Had the process begun when Paddy Pariah began making himself known?
Yeah, the process had. And what happened really was that over many years, just because I've had the luxury of being able to travel and meet interesting people and I think I've had a pretty interesting life. I've been offered to write memoirs, and I was always embarrassed by the idea of that. It just felt like I would be too self-conscious and probably, you know, create a heroic figure inauthentically if I did it. And so what I did want to write. I was always hungry to write. And so what happened was, you know, as an actor, you're always looking for characters, and some of the best characters or most fun, at least starting with most fun for you yourself to play, happen in your own head in the car or before you go to bed, or when you're trying to make your kids laugh or something like that, and something free happens. And there was that voice that you know, somebody might call muse, you know. And I thought, well, I don't know about me writing a memoir, but I could sure play the part of this person who's going to write this book about, and then I'll pick this other character I got in my head, and I'll play one character writing a book about another character, and I'll try to set it in a landscape that is very current. And so as I looked at what I kind of referred to as the quicksand of the current climate of this country, and try to see how one character could describe the other one's dance across the quicksand.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and correct me if I'm not, you wrote this then perhaps as something to create or go forward with as a film?
No.
Okay.
No, I just, when I say see it as...
You saw the characters, okay. A couple questions about this. Number one, the book is deeply musical, deeply poetic, and it's got a rhythm that I can only describe as Paul Schrader meets William S. Burroughs. And I mean that, if you knew how much I love both of these authors, you would be complimented. I'm curious as to what rhythm you heard in your head as you were going along. And then I want to talk a little bit about process.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing because there's been a lot of mixed reaction to this book, which I expected. But the part of it that is just going to be interesting over time, I don't expect that I'll do an audible version of this thing. I had done that. I realized how exactly wrong it was because I think that the thing here is that the reader gets to be the director and put their own vision on it and hear it themselves. One of the characters speaks with an enormous amount of alliteration, and when excerpted, there's only pomposity to it. But I think that I'm still waiting to see, because the book is just out, how readers in general will, if they make the choice as an actor to find that character's rhythm. One of the things about this also is it's not an opinion piece. I never thought of my own politics once while I was writing. This just was more stream of consciousness, approaches to something. And so what I find in the end is a lot of contradiction. And in this way, I kind of, my aspiration for the book is that give people a few giggles and a kind of competition, crisis. And also that, if it does that, it ends up being itself inclusive and not a polemic, and it's a fiction.
You say stream of conscious. Do you mind, number one, were you writing in long bursts? Were you writing in, short bursts, trying to live your life as an actor and as a father?
Yeah, I wrote the book in about 30 days and rewrote it for about 2 years.
Are you a laptop guy? Are you a typewriter guy? Or are you down and dirty pen and pencil?
I've never turned on a laptop in my life. But I have an assistant who owns one.
Okay.
So she sits with it, and I either sit on the couch with a cigarette or pace the floor with a cigarette and dictate most of the time. And then at night, when I don't have her handy, I sit up in bed or maybe at the table in the kitchen and drink and write long. And then I'll apply that to our dictation sessions in the morning.
Do you recall the first graph or pages that you wrote that would have steered the rest of the book, and what might that have been?
What happened is I've been collecting words and coming up with, lines of dialogue, I suppose, and ideas or just things that maybe came over the years and moments. And that file came through a telephone to my assistant, and she picked up that file. I quote her things and wake her up at night and say, just write this down. Because I'm not watching the time difference of wherever I was in the world and where she was. And she's saintly enough to have done so, kept those things. And so I did kind of go back to that stuff and look for what was common to what I was starting to think about as I was saying. And some of those were useful triggers.
We started the conversation talking about film and getting away from film for one reason or another. Even with an assistant, this is still a solitary process, away from collaboration. Was getting away from collaboration one of the reasons? I don't even know what that is. That sounds terrible, but is that you're a person who wants to create, yet you don't wish to collaborate in this larger sense?
I had been a person whose greatest interest was in collaboration, and I came to a point where something changed, and I had to accept that I no longer played well with others. And once I accepted that, because I had a lot of pride connected to playing well with others, and which is the nature of collaboration. Once I accepted that and gave myself license, I said, yeah, you know, fuck it, I can just do what I want to do. I'm 57 years old. I've worked hard. I've traveled hard. I've got beautiful kids, and I can do this if I want to. And then, you know, people will want to share in it or they won't. There's nothing I can do to control that.
Sure.
But I'll hope to make it accessible and of some value and the greatest value, again, at my highest aspiration for it, is that it's got some humor in it. Because I think this is like the only thing, the only common language I can find going on right now.
It's got humor and it has empathy, which I can't. Why? How does it have? What did you wish to make sure that, despite the comedy, often savage, despite the violence, often implied, but you know, there's some mallet work there, what I asked you about. But there's a deep, deep empathy in there. Were you trying to make certain